Welcome to another episode of All Four Downs Podcast. We're getting and ready for the conference championship that's going to be taking place this upcoming weekend. And man, did week 14 become more chaotic than what it is. All right. Listen, this Tuesday will be the second to the last of the rankings from the selection committee. How is this everything going to play out? I'm going to tell you what my projection is and everything else and the upcoming conference championship games. So let's get started real quick. And did you know Oregon marks the first team since the start of the college football rankings, which was back in 2016, to be the only team undefeated entering the conference championship. Can you believe that? Wow. That's amazing. And of course, they're currently ranked number one. Will they be number one after the conference championship? Here we go. This show is brought to you by the hhwshow.com, the hard-hitting wrestling show. You can check out that website or listen and subscribe to their YouTube channel of your favorite sports entertainment of wrestling. That's right. Covering the WWE and coming after the Survivor Series. You want to know all about that. We're going to start with first down. And these are the games that was, again, a difference maker into what could be a little debate as to the top 25. So Michigan upsets Ohio State 13-10. The question is, how far will Ohio State go? Most likely, I know they're going to make it to the playoffs, but will they host or will they be on the road? Syracuse upsets Miami. And will Miami be the team to at least make it to the playoffs, since not only did Miami lose, but they're not even going to the ACC championship? Georgia defeats Georgia Tech. Marvelous 8 overtime where they, again, I don't know what's up with Georgia. The receivers, Butterfingers, drop passes. Georgia's not the same. That offense is not the same. It looks like they're declining every time, but they always find a way to get by. And they're going against their next opponent for the SEC championship, Texas, which they defeated Texas A&M 17-7. Now, is Texas better than their first meeting with Georgia in Texas? Remind you that this game is going to be in Atlanta, Georgia. Boise State finishes off their season beating Oregon State. They're locked into the college football playoffs. And Memphis upsets Tulane. Although, listen, Tulane loses, but they're still going to the American Athletic Conference to take on Army. So, conference championships, this is what it looks like right now. Tulane will go over to Army at West Point. UNLV takes on Boise State. Iowa State takes on Arizona State. Georgia versus Texas, Penn State versus Oregon, and Clemson versus SMU. All that is happening starting Friday and Saturday's games. It's going to be awesome. All right, moving on to second down. College football playoffs. That's right. And this is my projection. And again, top 5 conference championships automatically in. However, the top 4 will make it to the bye week. Everybody else is in ranked, right? And the quarterfinals and semifinals are all bowl games. And I'm starting with my rankings 17-25. This is my projection in the road. I got Army, BYU, Illinois, Clemson, Colorado, Syracuse, UNLV, Louisiana, and Marshall. Yeah, I know. I'm not a big fan of any 4-loss team making it to the top 25. I'm keeping it nice and simple. I got to give props to Syracuse for their victorious win over Miami. Clemson, even though they lost, but they're in the ACC championship. And Army, again, I know a lot of people write them off. They're not even in the top 25, but let's consider how their season went. They only got 11 games because They play Army Navy, a traditional game that happens after the conference championship. However, Army will take on Tulane this upcoming weekend. Let's move on. Oh, and by the way, Colorado victorious this past weekend, but I don't think it's going to be good enough to make it to the college football playoffs. 11-16, I got Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Iowa State, Arizona State, and Miami. With the loss, I believe Miami should not be in the top 12. Again, no defense. They could have been, look, they blew a lead. They blew a 21 point lead. How can that happen, especially towards the end of the season? The hottest team right now through 11-16 is Arizona State, and they take on Iowa State for the Big 12 championship. I believe Ole Miss is going to be left out, but how will the committee factor in everything that just happened? 6-10, Penn State, Boise State, Ohio State, Tennessee, and Indiana. Penn State clinches their way to the Big Ten championship and take on Oregon. Yes, I do got it at number 6, but the committee might have them in the top 4. I don't think Penn State is good enough. I keep saying that. Prove me wrong this weekend. Boise State, they handled their business. Ohio State losing to Michigan, a rivalry which it left a bad taste in the post game. Okay, I don't know. I think they're going to get dropped, but good enough maybe to host a game in Ohio Stadium. Tennessee, they're just looking outside, looking in. I think they're in, and so is Indiana. Indiana, man, they came out strong this weekend. Wow, what a performance. But again, not so good against contenders, but with all the pretenders and lack of, they know how to dominate. And my 1-5, Oregon, number 1, Texas, 2, SMU, 3, Notre Dame, 4, and Georgia, 5. Now, I'm a little bit questionable about Georgia, especially after they won against Texas. All the games after that, they look so suspect right now. Like, what kind of team will we get out of Georgia? Can they bounce back and be dominant from start to finish? This is part of the season where Georgia just either they bring it in the second half or they just don't got it, but they're winning. I'm still confused on that area right there. Third down. This is my projection for the top 12 and for the college football playoff rankings moving in. Oregon, number 1. Boise State, 4. SMU, 3. And Texas, 2. Those are my proper seedings right there. Let's look at who's going to be hosting. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Georgia, and Penn State. And on the road will be Tennessee, Arizona State, Alabama, and Indiana. Now, let's take a look at this real carefully because, look, this is going to factor in a lot, okay? And conference championship is going to have a heavy weight, okay? Texas takes on Georgia. Should Georgia beat Texas, I still believe Texas will be there in the playoffs. SMU versus Clemson. I tell you that if Clemson should beat SMU, SMU will be on the hot seat in there. Okay. Boise State against UNLV. That's another. I'm going to factor in that if Boise State loses to UNLV, they're out. Guaranteed. Oregon versus Penn State. I think that's a switch. I do believe that if Oregon loses, they'll probably be a number 5 seed and bumps Notre Dame down to number 6, and Penn State will go ahead and get a bye week. That's how I see it. As far as the Big 12 championship, I see Arizona State. I don't think the Big 12. I mean, it will take probably Boise State to lose for the Big 12 to enter the quarterfinals for a bye week. Okay. And that probably allow the American Athletic Conference to step in and get a seat. Who knows? Or will UNLV be that good enough to enter the college football playoffs? It's crazy. Wild card, Alabama at number 11. They did win and beat Auburn. What is that good enough? Being a 3-loss team. Crazy. How's that sound? Or should Texas beat Georgia and they become a 3-loss team? Will that benefit as well? Or would it bump Alabama? I don't know. It's just too hard to tell on this. Okay. And looking at the overall picture, outside looking in, I have Iowa State, Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Miami. South Carolina is the hottest team in the second half of college football. Will that be good enough? Will they be ranked higher than Miami? These are some unknown questions that we might have a better picture going into Tuesday for the official announcement. But then again, we might see it one way, the way the committee has it, or you might think that way. But remember last year when Florida State won the ACC championship, still undefeated, and was left out in the college football playoffs with 12 teams and a lot of possibilities. It's hard to say. It really is. And I'm telling you, it's a far stretch maybe for Alabama to be in the top 12. I think I don't know, they might be deserving. I don't know, but if you look at it, they're mediocre just like anybody else. Alabama, Georgia's probably playing the same type of football. You just don't know what you're going to get out of it. We thought Ole Miss was going to be in there, and they always lose. And then Tennessee. I mean, who knows what the committee is going to look at, how they're going to seed it. But I tell you this, what's solid, and I haven't been wrong yet. I've had the teams accurately, and even though it was out of order, but I got a feeling that this right that you see right here in front of you, Tennessee versus Ohio State, a great match. Arizona State versus Notre Dame, rematch of Alabama and Georgia, if it was possible. Indiana and Penn State, that'd be crazy. But imagine Georgia beats Texas and maybe they do a switch. I would be looking forward for Alabama versus Texas. Most definitely. I would love that. And if Oregon was to fall to Penn State, I mean, then you'll have a Big Ten versus an SEC team. So we're going to have some heavyweight matches in the first round leading into the quarterfinals. The question is, with this current playoffs for the first time, which team is going to be having the advantage? And again, the winner of this college football playoffs is going to be probably the number one champion ever in college football history, because this is going to be a heavyweight match. It really is. So what's your take on this? Who do you think is going to make it? Who's going to be left out? Then again, who's going to be the champions this weekend? All right, what's your prediction? And my final whistle, 2024-2025 season is coming to the end. And now we're entering the playoffs. And it's so beautiful because week 14 has given us high-stake matchups, season-defining moments, and playoff-shaping results. And you got to love it. All right. Conference championships will determine where they're going to be seated in the playoffs. The SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, and now we conclude the Mountain West, right? Maybe we could have wished the Pac-12 would have came around, but it is what it is. All right, but there's going to be some playoff controversies. Every year is going to be the same way. Do they fit in? Do they not? Would a 3-loss team be in the playoffs or not? Who knows? And then we're going to be talking about the Heisman. Who's going to win it? I already told you last week who's going to win it. It's no other than the Colorado Hunter. Yes, sir. And bowl season. How many players are going to opt out? Honestly, how many players are going to opt out? I know for a fact for the playoffs, nobody is. They're going to continue on. But as far as everybody else, I mean, this is the reason why they made this playoffs. Whether you want to deal with it to where you think that, oh, it's all about money. But I think this is probably the best way to protect all these New Year's Six bowls. Honestly, it's all about protecting it and make it valuable And I believe they did that. Okay. I really do. But hey, you gotta love some football, baby. This week, conference championship is the heavyweight match, leading into another heavier match. I'm loving it. How about you? Stay tuned to the reaction after the college football committee announced their top 25 and predictions of this week's conference championship. I'm Obi-Wan. Thank you. Take care. Happy holidays, everyone.